Good afternoon. I am Andrea Chisholm with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. The Supreme Court is continuing hearings of the habeas corpus applications in which 5 detainees under the state of emergency are seeking to be released. The detainees are Everton Douglas, Courtney Thompson, Courtney Hall, Gavin Noble, and Nicholas Heath. Dion Jackson Miller is in court and filed this report.
The heart of this hearing is going to be the arguments about the legality of the detentions. Now, we were expecting to hear those arguments today, but presiding Judge Bertram Morrison told the lawyers he wants written submissions to be filed. He says he'll then take oral submissions tomorrow morning. Now, there was quite a bit of back and forth between the lawyers and the judge over how long those submissions should be. Lawyers for the Attorney General's chambers, for instance, asking for 45 minutes, the judge saying he would give 15 minutes. They finally settled on half an hour each, so that will take place tomorrow morning. Also appearing today were 2 police witnesses who testified regarding the detention of Nicholas Heath. Dion Jackson Miller, TVJ News.
2 defense attorneys are talking tough this afternoon, questioning the tactics of the police and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions DPP when cases are brought to court. The reaction comes as the defense lawyers point to inconsistencies in the $400 million fraud case at the Manchester Municipal Corporation. The 5 men convicted of fraud-related charges all have to serve time in prison, and lawyers have already indicated an intention to appeal. Defense attorney Delford George Morgan spoke with our news team.
At the commencement of this trial, the prosecution did not disclose that they had material that suggested that the contractors that they called had given statements implicating the accused persons.
In addition to issues surrounding disclosure, another defense attorney, Norman Godfrey, recalled a scenario in court.
One witness in particular admitted in court that he was giving the testimony he was giving, which was totally different from that which was contained in his statement. And he was giving that testimony because of threats made to him by the police. What would happen to him if he didn't give the evidence he was giving in court? And not only that, he was threatened by the police. But at the time he was being threatened, 2 of the prosecutors were present, and he identified those prosecutors in court. So it might now be up to you to find out who those prosecutors are.
No safe conviction, no proper and decent prosecution can be premised upon a witness being threatened, either by the police and worse, by the prosecutors themselves to change their testimony. That fact of threatening the witness renders everything the witness said not only suspect, but very unreliable.
Mr. Morgan points to a trend in the office of the DPP and referenced 2 other cases to support his narrative. Firstly, the case involving the Westmoreland-based King Valley gang,
where the Chief Justice tossed the matter out of court, primarily on the ground that the testimonies of the witness in court was diametrically opposed to the written statements and instructions given to the police and provided to the DPP's office. There's a pattern. I'm going to bring you back to that case in St. James, the Irwin rape case, where all the available evidence suggested that these men could not have possibly been the assailants. Yet they went on trial. There clearly is something very wrong with what is happening at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution.
An alarm is being raised about the threat of mobile gas stations in Jamaica. President of the Jamaica Gasoline Retailers Association, JGRA, Gregory Chong, says it's a threat to public safety. He was addressing a joint select committee of Parliament reviewing the 2017 Occupational Safety and Health Act.
You guys must have seen them around town. There are miniature tankers that has retrofitted pumps meter on it, and they will literally go any and everywhere and retail fuel, and it's taken off island wide. We have addressed it, brought it to the attention of our energy of MSTEM, and we will continue to advocate to look for ways to make it safe or put an end to it, because not only is it taking away business from our members, but it is a clear fire hazard.
How are they identifiable? They have a marketing sign on these, brand themselves or anything like that? I just want to know what to look for.
It looks like the old-time kerosene trucks. Those trucks that used to go around and sell kerosene. So it has the fitting with the digits that roll and show you the amount of the volume and the cost of whatever you purchase.
The JGRA president says the matter has been reported to the Ministry of Science, Technology, Energy and Mining, MSTEM.
The illegal trade is very much there also, and it has taken many forms. And we consider, we're not even sure what premises these companies are operating under, because MSTEM claims that they have not issued any kind of license for this industry, and it is taken footing.
Director of Elections Glasspool Brown says more public education is needed to sensitize citizens about the process of a dual election. Both the general and the local government elections are expected at the same time. Speaking on Power 106 FM's Morning Agenda program, Mr. Brown said the Electoral Office of Jamaica has boosted preparation to facilitate the process.
We're advanced in our training. We have trained in excess of 20,000 persons so far. And we're basically close to our quota, either election that is, in terms of our presiding officers and our poll clerks. We are now in the process of finalizing our list for what the passers, in effect, those are the one-day policemen. We have brought on board our logistics coordinators. We have looked at in terms of additional equipment that we need. And all of those are fairly advanced and are basically in place.
He adds that the public needs to fully understand what will happen.
Because there are a number of things that we need to update the public on. One is the whole question of the campaign financing law and regulation, so that they have to be aware of what is required under that act, under the regulation, and at the same time be aware of the penalties that exist under that particular regulation, which will govern the operation of financing or contribution to campaign in the upcoming election, be it one or two elections. At the same time, the other aspect is being put together, and we should be out there in the public starting sometime next week into bringing them up to speed in terms of what is required and what they ought to expect on the day of election.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. We have much more stories when we return. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. Less than 2 weeks after a standpipe was erected in Salt River, Clarendon to alleviate water woes, some residents are blasting the move as a failure. The Member of Parliament said it was a short-term fix, but some, including the MP's political rivals, say it has made things worse.
This announcement from Clarendon South East MP Pernell Charles Jr. on July 14 in Salt River, Clarendon had many cheering.
We turned on a standpipe for the first time since 1959.
But less than 13 days later, residents from the same area are upset about the same facility.
Look at this mud wall. This is that thing where them said last week, so them give us, after 60 years, them give us standpipe and all them things there. If this is not a standpipe, this is just a little PVC water tap.
Firstly, they claim there has been no water at the pipe for the past week. The Member of Parliament had declared it a temporary fix. The plan is that, in addition to having water at the standpipe, the community tanks where trucked water is delivered would also be connected to the main water supply, whereby keeping them full. But that has also been a problem.
The other day we run some water in the tank. If you see the tank here, the two black tank there, they contaminated the water that was chucked to the tank, right? And the said water here where them said them are divert to the tank was muddy, dark in color, brown in color, right? And that contaminated, right? And it's not good for nothing at all.
Opposition councillor for the Hayes Division, Cian Barneswell, and the PMP caretaker candidate, Patricia Duncan Sutherland, have also criticized the MP, claiming the measure was not only inadequate and disrespectful in a modern era, but tainted with political tribalism.
Why didn't he put Standpipe in the other, adjoining our neighboring communities? But no, what he did was to dug up the old pipes, install new pipes, and then give Salt River Standpipe. And I would just ask the question, is it because Salt River is not a community that supported or supports his party? That's a question I really want to ask him.
The real deal. We do not want for you to come here and believe that you can, in today's day and age, say to Jamaican people that it is okay. I'm going to give you a standpipe instead of a tank, and you must continue to carry water on your head with a cutter to your yard to bathe. That is just absolutely unreasonable, and it is insulting for you to say to the residents of Salt River, promises made, promises kept.
On July 14th, Colonel Charles Jr. had stated that the standpipe was a temporary fix, but did not give a timeline for the implementation of a permanent solution.
Recent improvements are expected to significantly reduce flooding in one St. Mary community. Krista Campbell revisited Barracks River and has the update.
A dream 12 years in the making, this bridge for the community of Barracks River in St. Mary. And just in time for the hurricane season. Residents recount the dangers and near misses of years gone by. Mark Bly says he could have lost his daughter when she was a toddler.
1.5 or so, year old. Mother come across the river and fall in the river with my daughter. My daughter about 13 now.
One night I was coming crossing. I never know it coming down so fast. And it all carried me down the stream. It is a good thing that somebody was there and I could help myself.
A headache for parents who would have to wait by the river for their children whenever it seemed like it would rain.
We used to have to come and look for those young men that you see there to help when the water come at distance, come down and they cross them. And if we can cross them, we do it also.
I'd have to wait, I'd have to take off my shoes and everything to cross, and sometimes my foot is hot, so sometimes I get sick afterwards. But the bridge, I can just walk at the main road and go on the bridge.
Otherwise, the alternative route would be much more expensive and 45 minutes longer through hills, 2 tunnels, and on more treacherous roads.
Like when we're sick, we have to walk, go a long distance, go to Flint River before we can get a taxi. Now that they lift up the railway, no car can run from the railway. But right up back to Flint River, come back round. And well, when we get this bridge now, we are right. Because the car can use from the bridge now. In the emergency, we can rush.
The remnants of one of 2 bridges which washed away in the past still lie in the Barracks River as evidence of how dangerous it gets during heavy rains. And though residents say recent rainfall was not enough of a test of the strength of the bridge, Councillor for the Richmond Division, Richard Query, is insisting.
This one we are confident based on how it was launched and the type of bridge that it is. It should last, well, certainly for the rest of my lifetime and for the lifetime of many of the residents there. The road leading to the bridge was also repaired. There are walls there that were erected, and basically the road had to somewhat be realigned to be able for the vehicles to be able to turn to get onto the bridge.
Southeast St. Mary MP Dr. Norman Dunn also provided funding for the construction. While they sing the praises of those who helped to make this finally become a reality, residents here in Barracks River, St. Mary have a concern. On the very same bridge that's providing a safer means of travel, especially for the children in the area, there's some amount of danger.
Some part of it, want some bolt. And you need more wire to the little one them, because the little one them a cack up on it and all them way there. I swing out and I go on all them places. You understand what I mean? And it's more dangerous for them, Because when school over, a lot of people, a lot of them, crack up and see everybody, they want to go all up and jump off down there.
Residents are also appealing for help to finish paving the main road. Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
And amidst increasing complaints about poor farm roads, a St. Mary farmer is happy about recent road repairs and the construction of a new bridge in Barracks River.
More time, when I don't have a drive, I can put something on my head and take it to Richmond to sell. You understand? And it is a short road when the river come down to know say I can really, even the rain fall and the river come right down, I can cross the bridge.
Firefighters are yet to determine the cause of a fire that destroyed a church and adjoining properties on Morris Street in St. Catherine Sunday night. 4 units responded to the blaze, which took an hour to be contained. No one was injured. Senior Deputy Superintendent at the St. Catherine Fire Department, Patrick Gooden, said water was a challenge in doing cooling down operations.
The church would have been having a heavy fire load, and so by virtue of the material that they use inside here, we have hydrants in close, reasonable proximity, but the volume of water that is coming from the hydrant is really not sufficient to provide effective firefighting operations. We have not been able at this point in time to determine what is the cause of the fire, but we will conduct an investigation as soon as possible.
The cost of the damage is unknown. TVJ News understands it's the second time the church has caught fire. It was destroyed in 2004. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says over 100 community health aides will be deployed to assist in the fight against COVID-19 in St. Anne.
152 community health aid workers are going to be deployed across the parish to every key health centers, all health centers. And you are going to be given a very big job in the fight against COVID-19. And I know you're being trained in what to do and how to do it.
He urged health workers to help citizens to understand their role in preventing and controlling infections.
Until modern science catches up by finding a vaccine or medication to treat, the truth is the virus is going to be here. People will get the virus. We have to find a way to minimize the risk of getting it, and for those who get it, a way to ensure that they don't spread it and that we treat them in a particular way so that they can get better. The strategy is to contain and to move from a case where you're preventing COVID from coming in to a situation where you have to live with COVID. The truth of the matter is that we have to keep reminding Jamaicans that COVID is here and is going to be here for a very long time.
And in sports, several rain delays could not prevent the West Indies from going down by a resounding 269 runs to England on the final day of the third and decisive test at Old Trafford in Manchester to lose the series 2-1. Resuming on 10 for 2 after Monday's washout, the West Indies were bowled out for 129 in their second innings shortly after lunch. Shea Hope top scored with 31 for the Caribbean side, who began the day needing an unlikely 331 runs to win. Jamaica's Jermaine Blackwood also made 23 and Shamar Brooks 22 for the West Indies, who were also hoping to bat out the day to draw the match and retain the Wisden Trophy. But the day belonged to England, led by pacer Stuart Broad, who joined the 500 club, finishing with 4 for 36 for a match haul of 10 for 67. Broad, who was man of the match and voted England's player of the series, took the wicket of Craig Brathwaite to move to 500 test wickets, joining compatriot James Anderson, Glenn McGrath and Windies legend Courtney Walsh as the only pacers to do so. Scores once again, England 369 and 226 for 2 declared, the West Indies 197 and 129. And that's the Midday News. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.